Welcome everyone. This video will help us get started with logging into SPSS remotely from anywhere you can possibly ever want to log into SPSS. This is a really nice feature that CSM provides, so it should be really useful both as you're doing your homework and later on in your graduate career when you're working on your dissertation. So this video will walk you through the basics, how to access it remotely, and then I've created a couple other ones that'll show you how to dig a little bit deeper and run some specific analyses. So to start out, if you're on CSM's website, csm.edu, the first step is to click on the My CSM tab. And usually it'll prompt you to log in with your CSM credentials. So these are the same login that you use for your email and for Canvas, etc. So you can see it remembers who I am, which is very nice of it. So to get started with SPSS, if you look up here on this main menu, there's a tab called My Apps, and we'll go ahead and click on that. And you can see it's logging me into the My Apps page, and again it's going to prompt you to log in with your CSM credentials. So I'll go ahead and do that. Once you're logged in, it shows several different remote applications that you can access. Your page might look a little bit different from mine since mine's a faculty staff account, but you kind of get the general idea of what it looks like. So you can see over here on my far right hand side, it says IBM SPSS Statistics 24. I believe that's the most up-to-date version that we're running here. I do want to point out that when you go to launch SPSS for the first time, it will prompt you to install the Citrix plugin. You might already have it installed if you've used kind of the My Apps feature before. Otherwise, it should be pretty self-explanatory. It's kind of like installing like a Java or a Flash plugin. So it'll kind of walk you through how to do that the first time you access it. Once you have that installed, it won't prompt you again. And if you have any issues with kind of the Citrix plugin, definitely reach out to PC Help. They're pretty responsive and pretty good at troubleshooting things, even remotely. So I've already installed the plugin on mine, so I'm just going to go ahead and click on SPSS. Make sure to only single click it because otherwise sometimes it'll open up like a million windows and that's always fun to deal with. Everyone's computer is a little bit different, but you can see down here is the file that I want to open. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on it, and it should launch my SPSS program in just a second here. Now we can see it's booting up. Depending on your computer speed, it may take a little longer, a little slower, a little faster. It just depends. So you can see here we have kind of a welcome window from IBM SPSS Statistics. It has some really great tutorials if you want to take some time to check those out. Otherwise, my goal for this course is to really kind of provide you with what you need in order to complete your homework assignments. But again, there's tons of resources out there. Also, oddly enough, YouTube is a fantastic resource. A lot of people make different SPSS walkthroughs. So if a while down the road you're working on your dissertation and maybe you're looking at something we don't cover in this course, or maybe you can't remember, there's tons of great resources out there. I'm just going to go ahead and click close on this dialog window, and it looks like it opened up two of them, which is great. So here's kind of the main window that should pop up when your SPSS is open. And I'll talk more about this in the next video, but there's a couple different ways that we can work with data. There is a way to import data from Excel. So if you're working with a really large data set, it's just under File and Import, or you can also do Open Data. Both of those work really well going from Excel to SPSS. What we'll do for this class, just because I find it's a little bit easier, is we'll use Microsoft Excel for all the data sets, and you can copy and paste them really easily. So I'll just show you a quick demonstration of what that might look like, and then the next video I'll show you how to kind of type in data from scratch, because when you go on to do your own research, more than likely that's what you'll end up doing. So here's just an example of some data that we have in Excel. I just made it up on the spot here, but we might want to copy and paste this into SPSS. So I'm just going to go ahead and take my cursor and click and highlight my whole data here. And then you can either do a Control or Command C to copy, or you can just do Edit Copy. You can see how it highlighted it. So now I'm going to jump back to my SPSS screen. And you can see here, it looks very similar to Excel in the fact that we have kind of these cells, the columns and the rows, and you can see in the lower left-hand corner, this tab is highlighted that says Data View, which is exactly what we want to do. So I'm just going to click on this first cell, and I'm going to go ahead and paste my data. So you can see here in SPSS, it's outlined a little bit differently than Excel because you can see this first row, it's reading it as data, but those are actually the names I want to give my variables. And you can see up here in kind of these shaded blue column headings that it's labeled var 0001 and 2. So it's a little bit confused because it's pasting that first row. So what I can do is go ahead and I'll just right click on this row and hit clear. So it'll get rid of that. And now if I go into variable view, this is where I can actually name my variables and give them more meaningful names. So I'm just going to double click in here and we'll just say that that was my test score and our second one was gender. So you notice when I copy and pasted it, the second column here called type, you can see that this default is string. So that actually is computer language for text, basically text characters, not numeric. So in SPSS, we always want these to be numerical because otherwise it won't know how to analyze string data. So I just clicked on that box and we get a dialog box that pops up here, and I'll go ahead and click numeric and we'll hit OK. Now with gender, if you notice, we actually did import string characters or letters. And again, it's going to be hard for SPSS to read those because it really prefers to work with numbers. So in this case, if we jump back to data view, there's a couple ways you could go about doing this. Since this is a small data set and I only have 9 people in it, I'm just going to go ahead and change my letters to numerals. So I'll just go ahead and code males or M's with a number 0. I'm just going in and re-entering that over the M's. And then for women or females, I'll go ahead and enter a 1. So these numbers, it really doesn't matter what you pick. You could label men 1 and women 2. You could label them 98 and 99. It can be whatever you choose as long as you can keep it straight in your mind. So you can see I changed them to zeros and ones. So we'll go back to variable view. So now I can go ahead and confirm with SPSS that these are indeed numeric. And then you can see over here, the other column that we want to pay attention to is this one called measure. And you can see the default when I copy and pasted those was nominal. So in this instance, test score is actually, if we click on it, it's a scale or a continuous variable. If we had like rank order, we could change it to ordinal, but for this scale is the most appropriate. And for gender, it's really just a label, so we can go ahead and leave that defaulted as nominal. The last thing that I want to show you, and then the next video will kind of continue jumping off from this point, is that we want to remember how we labeled gender. That's really important, otherwise we might mix up our data. And we can do that using this column labeled values. So I'm going to click on that and you can see this blue box shows up on the right hand side. And here is where we can tell SPSS how we're labeling our variables. So in this case, if you recall, 0 equaled male and 1 equaled female. So I just entered the value, the number that we assigned it, and again, that can be anything you like. And then same thing, I entered the label that corresponds with that and click add. So once you've added everything that you need, you can go ahead and click OK. And now that's just a nice reminder to ourselves how we labeled gender with our ones and our zeros. So this was just really the basics of how to log in and access SPSS. Again, kind of the big issue is making sure that you have that Citrix plugin installed and ready to go and that you're able to get the program open. Again, if you have any issues, please contact PC Help. And if it's easy, then you can also copy me on the email and I'll make sure that they respond to you in a timely manner. Every once in a while, I do have students who have kind of glitches with it, but we always get them ironed out in the end. Very confident in our institutional technology department. So feel free to reach out with questions or definitely email PC Help if you're having problems getting to this stage. And then we'll see you next time because I'll add a couple of other videos that get into actually how to run some basic descriptives and frequencies and charts and things like that. So we'll break it up into some small sections for now, but this is definitely our first step.